Have you ever felt like you've been forgotten? Not just overlooked in a busy moment, but truly, deeply erased from the memory of the world around you. In the quiet, rural corners of Japan, there's a story whispered among locals, a chilling tale from an old schoolhouse that stands as a monument to a forgotten soul. This is the legend of the child who was never counted. Our story takes us to a small, wooden school building, nestled deep in the mountains, surrounded by cedar trees and morning mist. It looks like any other aging school from a bygone era. The scent of old wood and chalk dust hangs heavy in the air, and the floors creak with the weight of generations of footsteps. But this school holds a secret, a daily ritual born from a tragedy that everyone has chosen to forget. Every morning, without fail, the first teacher to arrive unlocks the doors and begins their routine. They walk through the empty classrooms, sunlight barely piercing the dusty windows. They check the desks, the blackboards, the supplies, and then they perform the head count. This isn't a head count of living students. That comes later. This is a head count of the ghosts. You see, this school is known to be a place where the spirits of children who passed away too soon linger. The locals accept it. The teachers, out of respect, or perhaps fear, have a tradition. They count the apparitions, the faint shadows, the cold spots. They acknowledge their presence, a silent agreement between the living and the dead. The count is always the same. 1, 2, 3, 4. The teacher would whisper, pointing to empty chairs where a presence is felt. All present, but there's a rule, an unspoken, ironclad rule, passed down from one generation of educators to the next. You count the 4 known spirits. You never, ever, count the 5th. This is where the true horror of the story begins. There is always a 5th presence. A small, quiet child who sits at a desk in the back corner of the oldest classroom. This desk is always slightly out of place, askew, as if it's been pushed aside. Sometimes, a faint humming can be heard, a simple, childish tune that seems to drift on the dust motes dancing in the sunbeams. Other times, a chalk-drawn flower might appear on the corner of the blackboard, only to be quickly wiped away. The teachers see it. They feel it. They know the child is there, but they pretend not to. They look right through the space where the child sits. When they do their morning count, their eyes slide past that corner of the room, their lips sealing shut after the number 4. To acknowledge the 5th child would be to break the fragile peace, to invite something they cannot comprehend. The legend says this child wasn't a spirit who wandered into the school after death. This child was a student, a living, breathing student who attended this very school decades ago. They were quiet, shy, easily overlooked. So easily, in fact, that one day, during a fire drill, a terrible mistake was made. The teachers lined up the students outside and did a head count. 1, 2, 3, all the way to the end. All accounted for, the headmaster declared, satisfied. But they were wrong. They had miscounted. One child, the quiet one, had been hiding in a closet during the drill, playing a game, and they were left behind. When the school day ended and the doors were locked, the child was still inside. No one noticed they were gone. Their parents assumed they were at a friend's house. Their friends assumed they had gone home. The teacher, confident in their count, never gave it a second thought. The child was never reported missing. Days turned into weeks. The child was simply gone, erased. It was easier for everyone to believe the family had moved away in the night than to confront the horrifying reality of their collective failure. The school, the town, the parents, they all participated in this silent, shared denial. They chose to forget, but the child never left. Their spirit remained, tethered to the place where they were last seen, the place where they were last unseen. They sit in their classroom, forever waiting to be counted, to be acknowledged, to be remembered. They are not a malevolent spirit. They don't seek revenge. They just want to be included in the tally. The horror of this story isn't about a monster or a violent ghost. It's about the chilling power of collective denial. The teachers who walk those halls today are terrified. not of the child, but of the truth. They fear that if they speak the number 5, if they finally look at that desk and acknowledge the child sitting there, the entire facade will crumble. The guilt of generations would come crashing down upon them. Acknowledging the ghost would mean acknowledging the unforgivable mistake that created it. So, they continue the ritual. They count the 4. They ignore the 5th. They walk past the humming. They wipe away the chalk flower, and they pretend the slightly askew desk is just an oversight. They treat the child the same way in death as they did in life, as if they aren't there at all. This is the true terror of the child, who was never counted. It's the story of a presence that is defined by its absence. A ghost born not from a violent end, but from a quiet, soul-crushing act of being forgotten. The child wasn't lost. They were erased, and they are doomed to remain in that classroom, a silent testament to the fact that sometimes the most terrifying thing in the world is not being seen. The next time you feel overlooked, remember this story. It's a reminder of the quiet horrors that can exist in the spaces of our own denial and the ghosts we create when we choose to look away. What happens? One wonders, on the day a new teacher arrives, one who doesn't know the rules. What happens when someone, out of pity or ignorance, finally turns to that lonely corner and says the word 5? Perhaps some secrets are best left buried, and some children are best left uncounted. Thank you for joining me on this journey into one of Japan's most unsettling legends. If you find these dives into obscure folklore as fascinating as I do, consider subscribing and turning on notifications. Let me know in the comments if you've ever heard a story like this. Until next time, stay curious and be careful what you choose to ignore.